What's up guys, Mizzo Frizzo here, and in this Unreal Engine 5.4 tutorial I'm going to show you how to use Sequencer to create first-person animations right here in Engine. I'm going to show you how to set up animations for a traditional first-person character where the arms are parented to the camera. I'm also going to show you how to set up Sequencer for creating animations for a true first-person character and how that works. I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks on using Sequencer for animation. I'm also going to show you how to rig your weapons so that you can create first-person animations that include animations on the gun itself. And as kind of a bonus, I'm going to run through how to alter existing animations to tidy them up in Sequencer so that they, for example, you have an animation where you're reloading the gun and the hands aren't quite in the right position for, pulling out the magazine or something like that. I'm going to show you how to alter those animations and clean them up a little bit. But just before we get started, guys, a word from my sponsor. As per usual, guys, this Unreal Engine 5 tutorial is brought to you by you, my generous subscribers and viewers who have been so supportive over the past 12 months or so. If you find this video to be of any use or value whatsoever, please hit like and subscribe, and if you're so inclined, please do consider making a small donation to the channel via my Patreon, link is in the description, or via YouTube using the thanks button just below the video there. Now, just FYI guys, being a Patreon member does not currently give you any added benefits. It's just a way of helping you to make your donations to the channel to help keep me going and making more quality tutorials for you guys. But just FYI, I am working on setting up a Discord server where membership of my Patreon will give you access to my Discord server, and hopefully we'll have that set up in the next month or so. So without further ado, guys, let me show you how to do this. Alrighty guys, I'm going to create a new project using the third person template, leave everything as default and hit create. And for the record, guys, I'm using Unreal Engine 5.4, so any small changes that come up because of Unreal Engine 5.4, we should be able to work through those together. So the first thing I'm going to do is add the first person content pack. So I'm going to click add and add feature content or pack and add the first person content pack to the project. I'll hit add to project, and you'll know this is added to your project because you'll see a couple of new folders down here, namely first person and first person arms. So I can close that. But just before we jump into the setup of the first person character and a potential true first person character, I'm going to run you through Sequencer, how to access Sequencer and how to start working with it. So as per usual, I'm going to use this little corner of the map down here as my kind of animation studio. Now there's a couple of ways that you can open up Sequencer and create a new level sequence, one of which being dropping a control rig into the world. So if I go to characters, mannequins, and rigs, you'll see this control rig mannequin body right here. This is the control rig for Manny. And if I click and drag this out into the world, this might take a second. If I drop this here, it will assume that I'm wanting to create an animation, and it will open up Sequencer right here with the control rig mannequin body already added into Sequencer right here. Now, this isn't the only way that you can open Sequencer. For example, if I just delete the control rig from this level sequence here, you can see we've still got it in the world here. So if I find this in the world outliner here, control rig mannequin body, and I drag this into Sequencer, you'll see that it's added it into Sequencer right here. So you can just find any objects that you want to add into your sequence and drag them from the outliner into the Sequencer. You can also, if I delete this and I close Sequencer here and I click up here, I can add a level sequence right here. It will ask you to save it somewhere. So this is the one that was automatically created right there when we drag and dropped the control rig mannequin into the world. So I'm just going to create another one here, new level sequence. And then obviously this has nothing in it, so you would have to find your mannequin and add it to sequencer right there. And these will save like any other asset. So if I go back out to the content folder here, you can see the level sequences here, and you can open those up and it will open up the sequencer right there. So you can see this is the one where we deleted the control rig from the sequencer, but if we go back to new level sequence, this one will have it right here. So using these assets as kind of templates is a very handy way of sort of transferring poses to other animations. So I might show you a little bit about that later on, but basically, if I have like an idle pose and I then wanted to do an aim down sights pose that transitions, to that aim down sights pose from the idle pose, I might duplicate my idle pose and then open it up and then start making changes to that one. That's just a handy little tip. I'm just going to delete that one, and I'll also delete this CR mannequin body take 1, and we'll just work with this one here. Nice. Okay, so sequencer is this tool that you can see down here. It is a very, very powerful tool that can be used to keyframe animations on control rigs, so skeletal meshes, or other actors in the world to create animations or cinematics. So we've got our control rig mannequin right here. And basically the control rig are these circles and boxes and arrows and shapes that you can see around the skeletal mesh here. And these are just a way basically of manipulating the body for animation. The first thing I want to look at with you is switching on the IK for the arms, because if I switch this to the move widget and I move this hand, you'll see that it's going to deform the body. I'm just going to hit Control Z and undo that. So FK is basically really only good for rotation of bones. And if you're doing stuff with the hands, IK can be much more useful and much faster to iterate and work with. So how we switch on IK for the arms is if we scroll to the top here in sequencer and look under the control rig mannequin body, just drop this down if you haven't already, and you'll see the first one here is global control. You can drop that down as well, and down here you'll find arm L FK IK switch and arm R FK IK switch. If you check both of these, you'll see that it's removed this FK from around the shoulders and the elbows and the wrists, and it's replaced it with this box around the wrist right here. And if I grab this box and I move it around, you'll see it's no longer deforming the mesh so terribly. It is using IK to position the hands and the elbows like so you can, start working with the hands and animating the hands without having to worry about deforming the mesh. Alrighty, so a couple of things to point out about sequencer here and this little animation tab that pops up when you open sequencer. There's a couple of handy functions in here. You can, for example, hide control shapes. So if your control shapes are getting in the way, a little bit distracting, and you want to, check out your animation, you can hide control shapes. And the other one that I like to use is only select rig controls. So if you select this one, you're not going to select the mesh itself or the level behind it. You will only be able to select the rig controls. So only select rig controls I find is quite handy. And to be honest, I usually just check this one and then close this tab because it takes up a bit too much real estate for my liking. Nice. So let's have a look at doing a first-person animation. So firstly, we're going to look at animating the first-person arms that come in the first-person template. Okay, so if I go into my first-person folder and blueprints and open BP first-person character, let's just have a look at the setup in here. I'm going to go to the viewport, and you'll see that the first person mesh, the arms, are parented to the first person camera. So wherever the first person camera goes, the arms go. And this is how you create that kind of traditional first person look where the arms just, follow the camera. When you look up and down, you run around. It makes animation very, very simple. So we're just going to have a look at the setup in here. So first person mesh is parented to the first person camera, and the position here, the relative location of the first person mesh is -30, 0, and negative, well, let's just make this -150 for sake of ease. And we are now going to basically copy this setup in our sequencer setup so that we're ready to animate these arms, where they are right now. I'm actually going to change this location to -10, just so, -15, so they're not so far back from the camera, so we don't need to reach out as far. The other thing I want you to note about this setup in the first person template is that the rotation on the arms is set to 0 here, whereas usually the rotation on a mesh will be set to -90. And basically, as far as I can tell here, the only reason that this is different is they've kind of forgot to change the alignment of the character before they've done all the animations that come in the first person template. So if we set this up exactly like this in sequencer and we apply the animation here, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my arms to be at -15, 0, and -150 relative to the camera. So I am going to add a camera first. So I'm going to click here and search camera and find a camera actor. I'm going to drag it into the world, and I'm just going to place it about here. It doesn't matter too much. And then I am going to, and the reason I'm using the third person character here is because there's no control rig on the first person mesh, but we can replace the skeleton on the animation. So I'm going to find the control rig here, and I'm going to drag it onto the camera actor. And now that it's parented to the camera actor, what I can do is change the location to -15, 0, and -150. And if you have a look at the position of the arms there, you'll see it's pretty much, it will be exactly the same as the position of the arms here. So I'm going to create a very basic animation very quickly and show you how to apply these to the first person arms. But first we need to set it up so that we can actually see from the camera's perspective, because obviously that's what matters in a first person animation. So I'm going to click these 3 little lines up here and go to layouts, and I'm going to select this 2 panes side by side layout. And then up here where it says top, I can drop this down and select the camera actor that we created. And if it says real time off here, you want to click this and it should disappear because real time has been switched on. You want real time switched on. And just be careful that you don't, try to move this pane right here and move the camera. It shouldn't matter because the character is parented to the camera. It doesn't matter in this instance. So you can move this. It doesn't matter too much, but I'm just going to leave it. Whoops. Edit LZ. What did I edit there? I thought it would undo the movement of this pane, but it hasn't. So just leave this be. And what I'm going to do now is go back to my sequencer, and I'm going to change a few initial settings here just to make animating a little bit easier. So the main one that I want to switch on is this create a key when channels properties change. Only automatically adds a key when there's already a track and at least 1 key. So see how it says it only works if there's already a track with at least 1 key, right? So if I switch this on, it won't actually add any automatic keyframes on whatever I move unless there's already a keyframe on it. So what I like to do when I first open up sequencer is switch this on, and then I'm going to add a keyframe on the mannequin body, And if this is dropped down, you'll see that it's added a keyframe for every component of the control rig. So now, whatever I move, it will add a keyframe to that. So I'm going to turn off grid snapping and rotation snapping right here, and I'm just going to move the hands up in front of the camera like so. Uno momento, por favor. And now is a good time to mention global space and object space. So right here where the widget is sort of aligned with the world, you can see up here we've got this little globe, and this is because it's transform gizmo coordinate system between world and local. So this is in world space right now. It's aligned with the world. But when I'm manipulating the hands, especially with regards to rotation, I prefer to change this to object space. So this now aligns the widget with the actual object that you're manipulating. And when you're doing fingers and stuff like that, you don't really want this to be on global space, because if this is on global space, I am now bending fingers sort of out of shape. You know, that's not bending over in line with the bones of the finger. I will undo that and change this to object space. And now you can see you can manipulate fingers more naturally. And if you want to go sort of off axis, you can do so in small amounts, you know, if it's required to achieve what you're trying to achieve. So with the hands and the fingers especially, I like to sometimes use object space. Very, very handy. So I'm just going to... And this is independent of the transform widget and the rotation widget. So you can see here the transform widget, I will switch it to world space. And if I change to my rotation widget, no, it is now transferring over. So that is one small difference that I've just found with Unreal Engine 5.4. In previous versions, it would be independent. This change right here would be independent of which gizmo you're using. So I would be able to leave my transform widget on world space and this one on object space, but it is now changing for both. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up in front of the camera like so. And this finger, I'm just going to fix that because that is really annoying me. There we go. So with his hands up in front of him like so, I'm just going to create a very simple animation that we can apply to the first person arms. What I might do is change this to 60 frames. I will change this to 60 frames. It's another one of the things I'll do when I open up Sequencer. Automatic keyframing, keyframe everything on the mannequin, and then change the frames to 60 because 30 is pretty old school. Alrighty, especially when it's first person animations. You know, if it's a cinematic, then 30 for objects that aren't very close might be okay. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do with automatic keyframing switched on and everything keyframed on the initial frame, I'm going to move this to 60 frames, and then I am going to, with this on world space, I'm going to select the IK for the hands, and I'm just going to move them, sorry, just fighting with the camera a little bit here. I'm just going to move them up a little bit and out a little bit. And the same with this one, up a little bit and out a little bit. And if you look here under the 60 frame mark, you'll see that it's created a couple of keyframes for the hand R IK and the hand L IK right here. So this is a very quick way to identify where they are on the list here. You can see it's created two keyframes for the hand L and the hand R IK. And what I want to do now is make them return to their initial position. So that's this keyframe here. I can click this one and then control click this other one and then control C to copy. I can go to 120 frames, control V to paste. And if we grab this slider now, you'll see that it's moved up and out to where I placed them and then back to the original position. I can now grab all four of these keyframes, control C to copy, go to 180 frames, control V to paste, And then this red line here is where you want your animation sequence to end. So I'm going to make it 240 frames. So at 60 frames per second, 240 frames is a 4-second animation. It's just going up and back in twice over the course of 4 seconds, and that's my animation. If you need to, view things in finer detail, you've got a couple of options down here. So this is obviously how much scale you want to view here. And if you need to make it longer or shorter, you've got a couple of things that you can. So this is what I was just playing with there, these inside numbers right here. And then these outside ones are how far you want to be able to look. So this is kind of the extreme, You can drag this out if I really want my animation to be able to go a lot further. So obviously I'm not going to be going before 0. So that's why this is at about -30 by default. And we don't need that way out there. Okay, so now we can bake this animation into a animation sequence. So I can scroll up to the top and I can right click on the root of the control rig mannequin body here, and I can find bake animation sequence. And I'm just going to put this in the content folder, and I'm just going to call it mannequin idle sequence or idle mannequin sequence. There we go, and hit OK. We can leave this as default and export to animation sequence. And now if we go to our content folder, we can find that animation sequence right here. And there, we've created an animation sequence on that skeletal mesh. Now, I'm going to replace the skeleton of this one. So just out of, force of habit, what I might like to do is duplicate this one and do it to the duplicate, because, I might want to keep this one there. So I might rename this one, third person idle sequence, and this one will be first person idle sequence or something like that. But I'm just going to right click on this one and replace skeleton. And the skeleton I'm going to replace it with is the SK mannequin arms skeleton, like so. And now if I open that up, you'll see that if I hit play, it works perfectly fine on the first person arms, like so. Nice. So if I go to my BP first person character here and change the animation mode to use animation asset, and I find my idle mannequin sequence 1, you'll see that it's rotated 90 degrees like this. And this is what I was talking about. So all of the animations that come with the first person template are kind of twisting the skeleton 90 degrees. But obviously, if you're going to be making all of your own animations, you don't want to have to do that. You just want to turn your character -90 degrees, like so. And with this on use animation asset, and this asset selected, you can very quickly see this animation at play. I'm just going to click this button right here, just restores the viewport to this view. And if you want to go back or you want to focus on this window, you can do that. So you can just click this button here to cycle between your layout setups. What I'm going to do is go to the world outliner and the game mode override, and I'm just going to override the game mode and select the BP first person game mode. And now if I hit play, you'll see that my character has this animation that we've created, like so. Nice. So that is how to create a first-person animation using a traditional first-person character that just has the arms. Let's have a look at true first-person. So there isn't that much difference with true first-person, other than the the camera is not going to be the parent of the body. It's going to be the other way around. The camera is going to be parented to the body. So let's say I'm just going to click and drag this CR mannequin onto the camera actor to unparent that. And then I'm going to press end and drop it to the floor like so. And I might just move it out from the wall a little bit here. So basically your true first person character, your camera will be parented to the mesh, and it will be attached to a bone, maybe the head or one of the neck bones, and you will just need to copy the orientation of that. So if I grab my camera here and I drag it onto the mesh, and it will automatically drop down with a list of parent sockets. Let's say I want to parent it to the head, and then I want to go to the details panel and change the relative location and rotation of my camera here. I'm not going to touch rotation because it's already correct. I'm just going to zero out the location of the camera, and now that is attached directly to the head bone. But let's say in your character you've changed this relative location to something like 8 and 12, or I think 6 and maybe 14 is about bang on with where the eyes are. So whatever your setup is in your character's blueprint, you want to copy that right here, and that's it. If I bring up the two-pane view again, you'll see the hands have dropped out of view here because they were right in front of the camera for a traditional first person. But if you wanted to make a true first person setup and animate them, this is how you would do it. It's just a matter of making this setup with the control rig and the camera exactly how it is in your character. So if I placed the camera here for the third person character, and I created an animation sequence here with the exact same setup here, this would look exactly the same inside that character. Nice. Okay. The next thing I want to have a look at with you guys is rigging weapons and creating first-person animations that sort of align with, an animation on a weapon. So we are going to head over to the Unreal Marketplace. And the free asset pack I want you to find is this one, Military Weapons Dark. There is also a Military Weapons Silver, but the main thing is that the skeletons on these weapons are set up so that you can actually use the new modular control rig tool to add controls onto the different bones, such as the trigger and the slide and the hammer and whatnot. Now, I have encountered problems with weapon packs such as the FPS Weapons Bundle, which I usually recommend as an alternative to this one, if this one is not free in your country. But I have found that setting up controls for the different bones on the skeletons in the FPS Weapon Bundle doesn't work as easily as it does with these, just because of the skeleton hierarchy. It hasn't been, the modular control rig has been designed to work on character meshes, not anything like weapons. So basically what I'm going to be showing you is a very quick and hacky way to create a control rig of a weapon. There are better ways to do this. You probably would want to just create a proper control rig, but that takes significantly more effort, and I'm just like, we can animate our weapons in this way, and as long as it works, then that's all that really matters. So I'm going to hit add to project, and if you can't see your project here, just click show all projects, select your project, and then select the most recent compatible version, which is probably going to be 4.27, and hit add to project. You'll know this has added because you'll see a new folder here, Military Weapons Dark. We can go into that one and into Weapons. And what I'm going to be using is this pistol right here, Pistols B. So I'm first just going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to call it Pistol. And I'm going to grab all of this pistol stuff right here and drag it into that pistol folder, move here, and now we've got the pistol in this folder here. So basically a control rig is something that allows you to, you're rigging the skeleton of that skeletal mesh so that you can manipulate that skeleton for the purposes of animation. So if we open up the skeleton here, we can see we've got a trigger bone, and this one just slides back and forth like so, and the slide bone, and the slide bone is what we're going to be messing with today. We're just going to create a nice little animation where he checks the chamber for ammo right here. There is one annoying thing here, which is the ammo in the clip. The clip bone right here is, showing in the chamber like so. In reality, this would actually sit more sort of down here, and when the slide comes back, it would feed that round from the top of the clip into the chamber here, and it would be aligned with the barrel. Now, if I wanted to be really precise with this animation where our character pulls the slide back to check the chamber, I might get a static mesh of one round and attach it to this skeleton right here. Attach it right here in the chamber so that when he pulls it back, you can see that round in there. But we're not going to be doing anything like that today. I just want to show you how the animation works. So we can close this skeleton, and what we're going to do is right click in our pistol folder here, and we're going to find animation, control rig, and create a new control rig. And we're going to be using the modular rig that is new to 5.4 right here, the modular rig. So we can hit create, and I'm just going to call it pistol cr_pistol, and open this up. And for some reason the compiler results comes up here. We can just close that. The first thing we want to do is add the skeleton here. So we can go to preview scene right here, and under preview mesh we can find our pistols B skeletal mesh and add that as a preview mesh right here. Now, as I said, I'm not going to be showing you any advanced control rigging here. I'm just going to show you a very quick and hacky way of adding controls to the bones that we want to use. So down here, you've got the root bone here, and the first thing I'm going to do is right click on it and go new module, and I'm going to just add a control. I'm not going to use any of these because these are kind of set up to work on a character. As you know, it's kind of self-explanatory. They're set up for arms and fingers and legs and whatnot. I'm just going to add a control, and the control right here, I am going to put it on the grip bone. So this is going to be our kind of root right here. And if we go to the details panel, we can have a look at the control settings right here, and we can change the offset. So we can move the offset, and I generally don't like to have this one sticking out the front of the grip, because when you're wrapping your character's fingers around the grip, it can get in the way a little bit. So I might move it back here, and I might also just move it up a little bit. And let's see if we can change the size. So we can lock the scale here and make this say 0.6, and that's fine like that. So if we grab this control now and we move it around, you'll see that it moves the entire pistol around. So this is kind of our root control right here. And then what we can do is we can right click on the root again. Actually, yes, we'll right click on the root again and go new module and add control. And then this time we should be able to select some children of the grip bone. And this is where the problematic skeleton hierarchy comes into play with some other weapons. This may not work like this for your weapon, and you may just need to fiddle around with your setup here to try and add controls to the different bones. So I'm going to add one to the trigger bone socket right here, like so, and immediately I'm going to change the scale to something like 0.5, 0.4, and I might even unlock the scale here, and I might make this control a little bit of an oval shape, like so. So it sort of sticks out the sides a little bit. I've done it the wrong way around here. Hold on. This is what I meant, so that it's just sticking out the side of the weapon a little bit. Might even make that 0.5. And then the offset, I will just move it up. And now we have a control on the trigger like so. So we can control our trigger. Let's do a couple more. So we'll right click again on the root and new module, add control, and let's make this one the slide bone. Again, we can fiddle around with the scale here, and and the offset. And since we're going to be grabbing the weapon, back here most of the time or over the top, what I might do is offset this one sort of down into the slide like so. That's where my slide control will be. And we have a control on the slide. Nice. Let's add one more just for funsies. Add new module, add control, and this one can go on the clip bone. So this will be a control on the clip or magazine. Make this 0.5 and drop it maybe down here onto the front of the clip. And then we have a control on the magazine. Nice. Alrighty, that's pretty much it, guys. You can go into the nitty gritty and mess around with, you could change the colors of the shapes so you can denote them a little bit easier. But I did not see. So it says this item has been created procedurally. So it doesn't allow you to change it here, but there is a way of changing the shape, visible, shape properties, color. I did find a way of changing the color, but it seems to have escaped me right now. But that's okay. We've got controls on these bones, and that's all we really needed. So I'm going to compile and save and close this. And now let's do it on our first person character. So we're going to need a socket. So I'm very quickly going to create a socket by browsing to the skeletal mesh of the arms here and opening up the arms skeleton. And I'm just going to go to my right hand, right click, add a socket, then right click on the socket, add a preview asset, and add my pistols B and put it more or less into the right position. Not going to fiddle around too much with this. I'm just going to put it more or less into the right position. So it looks relatively natural. Nice. That'll do. And now let's create an animation. So again, however it's set up in here is how you want to set it up in Sequencer. So what we're going to do in the first person character is I'm just going to add a skeletal mesh component, call it gun, drag gun onto first person mesh, make sure it's parented to first person mesh. I can change the skeletal mesh asset to my pistol, if I can spell pistol today, and change the socket to the hand R socket that we created, zero out the location and the rotation, and there, the pistol's in the right position, like so. So what we can do is go back to our world and sequencer right here, and just to make this a bit less confusing, I'm going to undrop down that, and I'm going to add that pistol control rig to the level right here. So in my pistol folder, control rig pistol, drag this out, drop it in the world, and then find it over here in the world outliner. I've got only select rig controls set up, so I can't actually click on this. So I'm also going to drag it onto the mannequin, and I'll get this drop down, and I can choose my hand R socket. I cannot because I added it to the first person character, and we're not actually using that character to animate here. We do have to use this mannequin. They just haven't created a control rig for the first person arms, but the arms are exactly the same as they are in the third person character. So I do need to add that socket to my SK mannequin. In the characters, mannequins, meshes, SK mannequin right here, and I'm going to change the preview mesh to SKM many, And then I'm going to find the right hand, add a socket, add the preview asset, pistols B, get this into the right position. Sorry about that. I did forget that we need to do our animating on the third person character mesh. That'll do. That'll do for now. Okay. So I can save and close that. And I'll close that first person skeleton as well. And now with this pistol dragged onto the CR mannequin body, I can now choose that hand R socket and zero out the location and the rotation. And then the pistol's in the right position like so. Nice. Okay, so I'm not going to try and make this animation super neat and tidy. I am basically just showing you an example of two synchronized animations. It's going to be an animation on the arms and an animation on the pistol as well. So basically going to change this back to my two-pane view like so. And I do need to change this setup back to the first person setup. So I'm going to unparent the camera, and then I'm going to parent the body to the camera. And we made this -15, 0, and -150. Yep, that is right. And I'm just going to... We don't have the sequence from the first person setup anymore because we kind of just replaced it. So I might just create a very quick idle sequence for the first person mesh. So I'm going to make sure that this is on frame 0. And I'm going to delete all of these extra keyframes that we created. Make sure automatic keyframing is switched on. I'm going to go to frame 60 and just going to create a little idle animation. Make sure this is on world space. Move this up a little bit and out a little bit. And then copy that original keyframe to frame 120. Copy both of those to 180. And I've just got this really basic idle animation. So I'm just going to use this pose as a base for my animation. So I'm going to bake this animation sequence first, bake animation sequence, and put it in the content folder. And I'm just going to call this one idle sequence. Export. And then I'm going to browse to the sequence. I'm going to save this sequence and I'm going to browse to it and just check which one we're using here. So we're using new level sequence here, and I'm going to duplicate that one, and I'm going to call this, let's just call it chamber check sequence, something like that. So this is what I was talking about earlier. If you want to use this pose as the, the base pose for a different animation, you can duplicate that. So I've duplicated my idle sequence and I'm making this chamber check sequence. So I can now open this up and I can delete those extra keyframes that we made. And now I have a separate level sequence with the same starting base pose. Alrighty, so as I said, this is going to be super basic. Basically, let's go to half a second here, and let's at half a second move the hand and the weapon up in a way where we can see sort of into the chamber. So let's just put it, and let's put it nice and close to the camera so that we can see this in action. And so the first move is he's putting his hand up like that, and at the same time he's going to put his left hand up and grab the slide and pull it back. Actually, I might make this a bit more in line with the camera, like so. He's pulled it up to here, and he's going to pull the slide back and have a look inside. So at the same time, this hand is going to come up. And bear with me here, this is going to be a little bit fiddly, but I'm not going to do anything with the fingers or anything like that. I'm not going to make it look super, slick. That is up to you. This animation stuff, it takes a lot. This is usually, the job of several people with lots of time and money. But I'm just basically showing you how you can do this yourself. If this is something that you're interested in, making really cool animations for your game, which if you're going to be making your own game, you do want to have your own animations. So just trying to get his hand into the right, on that grippy part of the slide there. So it at least looks like he's grabbing it with his thumb, like so. So the first move here is he's gone from the idle pose and he's pulled the pistol up and he's put the hand onto the slide like so, and now he's going to pull it back. And yeah, this is not going to look great, but it's going to work. So let's have him, over the course of another half a second, pull it back. So I'm going to advance another half a second to the 60 frame mark, and I'm going to look at where his thumb is here on the slide. It's right into that grippy part of the slide right there. And we're going to move his hand, and we might want to use local space. It won't matter too much. It is going to not look great, but that's okay. The slide we can definitely do in object space, and we want to slide this straight back, and we don't want to slide it too far. Let's use this little piece of this bit of steel poking out here as kind of a reference. We might just pull it back to almost exactly, so just a tiny little bit of it is showing there. And this hand obviously needs to come back to the same position. Let's change that back to global. That's pretty close to where it was. I do know that it was clipping through a little bit, like so. And if we just move this back and forth, there's a problem here with where we didn't keyframe the initial position of the slide. So what I'm actually going to do is just bring it forward again and keyframe that. So we can just grab this, change it to object space, and bring it back to where it was. And I do just want to check that that's not moving around too much. Yeah, that's pretty bang on to where it was. That's another thing I forgot. You definitely want to keyframe where the slide was before you start to move it. And it hasn't created a keyframe for where it's moving to. Odd. So if I just find the slide bone. See, the problem here was I did not create a keyframe for the control rig pistol at the beginning. So as I said earlier, when you start, you want to change on frame 0, you want to add a keyframe for the control rig of the pistol so that it has a keyframe for everything right there. And then we can go to frame 30 and we can keyframe just the slide bone there. And then we can advance to 60 and we can move this back to about there. Sorry about that. And now we have the hand comes up, grabs the slide and pulls it back. Let's say he releases his thumb. So we might just go boop, like so, and release his thumb and move his hand away. Might move it to there and then down and out that way a little bit so it looks a bit more natural. So it's boom, and then pulls it back. He's letting go, moving his hand away, and right here is where we want the slide to start coming forward again. And we might want it to happen really, really quickly. So let's just go forward 15 frames, which is a quarter of a second, which is, it's probably going to be even quicker than that. Let's put it at 70 for now. See how that looks. And we can find the slide bone down here, and we can just click on that keyframe and Control C it, go to 70 frames and paste it there. And now he's pulling it back, and when he lets go, it's popping back to the front. And as he lets go here, we might start moving his right hand back to where it was. So let's find the right hand and keyframe it. Right hand here, keyframe that. And then let's get the original position and copy that. And let's paste it at about 95 frames right here. Pull the slide back, letting go, and then his hand goes back. And we can have the animation pretty much stop there. Might just stop it here at 105 where our left hand returns back down. And actually this position right here, I'm going to copy the hand RIK keyframe and I'm going to put it at 105, and then right here I'm just going to have it sort of in the upper position of that idle, so that when it comes back and then it kind of settles down and then it will start back into the idle like so. Okay, so that'll do for our purposes. What we now need to do is bake these animations. So you want to use the root, and we're going to be baking the animation of the arms and the animation of the pistol. So we can right click on the CR mannequin body, bake animation sequence. And again, I know it's not very organized, but I am just going to put everything in the content folder. And I'm going to call this chamber check. I'm just going to call it chamber check and hit export to animation sequence. And I'm also going to right click on the pistol and bake animation sequence. And I'm going to call it pistols B chamber check. Nice. And just to demonstrate these working on a character, we're going to do a very quick and hacky setup where we can just play these animations in tandem on this character right here. So we do need to replace the skeleton of chamber check so that it's on our arms. So I'm going to duplicate that one. Chamber check 1 is the one we'll be looking for. I'm going to right click and replace skeleton, replace the skeleton with the SK mannequin arms skeleton, and the and actually we might make this a montage. So I'm going to right click and create an anim montage, chamber check 1 underscore montage. This is the one we'll be using. We'll open this up and I'm just going to change the blend in trigger time to 0.01 and the blend out trigger time to 0.01. So make it blend in and out nice and snappy. And then on our first person character in the event graph, let's make this happen on the R key. So when we press the R key, what I'm going to do is play an animation montage on our first person mesh. Play montage. And the montage we're going to play is the chamber check 1. And then on our gun, we can also play animation. And that's going to be our chamber check. No, it's not. It's going to be our pistols chamber check, isn't it? Pistols B chamber check. And for this to work, we have to switch it back to an animation blueprint. So we can find our first person mesh and change to the animation blueprint. Oh, animation blueprint, first person anim BPC. And we might need to make a change to this. Let's open up the first person animation blueprint. And we just want to make sure that in the anim graph, we have a slot for our montage. And I'm just going to delete this one and make it a default slot. Slot, default slot. And I'm also going to go into my base animations right here, the locomotion state machine, and I'm just going to get rid of all of these and replace the idle with the idle that I made. Idle mannequin sequence 1. Make sure I check loop animation. And just going to open this one up, make sure that that's the one. That is not actually the one that we wanted. We wanted the one that is this new level sequence. So idle sequence. There we go, idle sequence. That's the one we need. And I need to replace the skeleton on that one as well. So it'll be idle sequence 1, replace skeleton, SK mannequin arms, and then idle sequence 1. Loop animation and open this one up, double check. Yes, that's the one that we wanted. Yep, so he's doing the animation now. And we just need to check that we wrote, oh, I've crashed the editor. So I'm going to restart the editor real quick. Sorry about that, guys. I crashed the editor somehow. I probably should have been hitting save along the way there, but oh well. Shit happens. Okay, so what did we lose here? The progress. Do we have our, we don't even have our default slot. Cool. I'm just going to go ahead and set up everything that I just showed you guys very, very quickly. I don't need to walk you through it again. And now I've got this animation. If I hit R, now I've got my little animation that I've created. It does not look great, but I mean, it is what it is. With this information, I'm hoping you guys can go on and make all sorts of really cool first-person animation, you know, such as, you know, pulling a charge lever and ejecting cartridges or whatever you want to do. You can now do it yourself. And one last thing I want to show you is how to fix an animation that that isn't lining up properly between your, you know, for example, your gun and your first person arm. So I'm going to show you how to do that very quickly. Alrighty guys, for this next part, we're going to head back over to the Unreal Marketplace. And I want you to find this free asset pack called the Animation Starter Pack. It's by Epic Games themselves. You can hit Add to Project. And if you don't see your project here, just click Show All Projects, select your project, and then select the most recent compatible version, which is probably going to be 5.2, and hit Add to Project. you'll know this one is added to your project because you'll see this folder anim starter pack right here. And the first thing we're going to need to do is retarget these for the UE5 skeleton. So I'm going to right click in here and create a new folder, call it UE5. And then I'm going to filter for animation sequence. If you don't have this filter here, just click this little drop down and find animation, animation sequence, and filter for animation sequence. And then I can click in here and press Control A to select all of these. And actually, I'm not going to do all of them. Actually, I'm actually just going to retarget one for the reload rifle iron sights right here. Reload rifle iron sights. This is the only one that I'm going to look at to give you an example. So I'm going to right click on this one and retarget animations. Now for UE 5.4, this is very, very easy. I just select the skeletal mesh that I want to retarget them onto, and I'm actually going to retarget them onto Quinn. So I'm going to select SKM Quinn, and I'm going to find my reload rifle iron sights and select it and hit export animations. And I'm going to put this in my anim starter pack and UE5 folder and hit export and leave this as default, hit export. And now we've got this little reload animation right here. Nice. So I'm going to go to my world settings and change the game mode override back to my BP third person game mode, and just double check that that's working. Yep, I'm back in my third person game mode, and I'm going to add to my third person character. So if I just find my third person folder, blueprints, BP third person character, I'm going to add a skeletal mesh to my third person character, call it gun, make sure it's a parented to the mesh, and I'm going to find the skeletal mesh asset assault rifle B from my military weapons dark. We just need to create a socket for this real quick. So I'm going to browse to the skeletal mesh asset here and open up SK Mannequin. And I'm actually going to change the preview mesh back to Quinn because we're using Quinn now. And I am going to find the right hand socket and right click on it, remove all attached assets. And now I'm going to add a preview asset, and it's going to be the assault rifle B, like so. And that position is actually fine the way it is. That will do. It doesn't matter too much. But what I'm going to do is now play that animation that we retargeted in Anim Starter Pack. I'm going to play this on my character and play the reload animation of the rifle on the rifle at the same time, just as we just did with the animations that we created, just to show you how there's a bit of a mismatch going on here. So I'm going to right click here and create anim montage. I'm going to open that montage and I'm going to change the blend in time to 0.01, the blend out trigger time to 0.01, and I'm just going to make sure that we've got a default slot on the animation montage here. So ABP Quinn C, which is actually a child of ABP Mani. So I'm going to open ABP Mani, go to the anim graph, and we've got a slot, default slot right here. So that's fine. Very good. We have that. So in our third person character, we can find the R key. R key, and we're going to, on the mesh, play the montage that we created. Reload rifle iron sights montage. And on the gun, we're going to play animation. And the animation we're going to play is, I believe it's reload rifle, not prone. That's the character. Reload rifle hip. You know what? Let's just have a look in the folder. So let's go to military weapons dark, weapons, anims, and we've got fire rifle, and we've got reload rifle iron sights. Yeah, this is the one here. So I'm going to close that, and with it selected, go to the third person character and click this little arrow to assign that animation to that play animation node right there. Nice. And now if I hit play, I didn't zero out the location and rotation of the weapon. So in the viewport, we need to actually attach this to the hand R socket and zero out the location and the rotation. So it's attached to the hand like so. And now if I hit R, you'll see we play a little reload animation. But if you look at the clip and the left hand, it is designed to work in tandem with this animation, it seems, but it is just not quite, the hand is not quite grabbing around the clip and not following it. So we're going to change this animation on the skeletal mesh of the character to line up more closely to that animation. So I'm actually just going to delete this from sequencer, and I'll just use this level sequence here. We're not going to go back and use any of the old ones, so I'm just going to use this one here. And we do need the control rig for the character here, so let's go to characters, mannequins, rigs, and drag out the control rig like so. And let's also grab the skeleton of the weapon. We don't need a camera here because we're just doing third-person animations, but if you are doing first-person animations, obviously, have the camera set up. But we are just going to get the assault rifle B skeleton or the skeletal mesh. We'll just drag the skeletal mesh out, and in sequencer, we want to make sure that that assault rifle is attached to the hand R socket. Zero out the location and the rotation. And we also want to make sure that that assault rifle is in the sequencer right here. And what we can do on this animation drop down here is add an animation, and it will be the reload rifle iron sights W. And now when we play the animation here, it has the animation on the rifle. We can also, I think we need to delete the control rig, not the main control rig here, but this one here. I think we need to delete it and then add the animation reload rifle iron sights like so. And now it's playing both animations, as you can see here. And we don't actually have Quinn's body here, which is a little bit annoying. I'm not sure if we can. Let's try and figure this out right now. So characters, mannequins, rigs. Maybe what we can do is just open the control rig for the body. And then maybe in preview scene, we can change the preview mesh to SKM Quinn. That's not changed it in sequencer. Compile and save that. And then maybe we'll delete that. And we will add this one with Quinn. There we go. And we will move the assault rifle onto that mesh. And she's already been added to the sequence. We can then delete control rig mannequin body and add the animation. There we go. Because we're doing it on this body, let's do it for that one. And it looks like there's a little bit of disparity here between the animations. The body animation is finishing slightly before the other one. Let's just finish this right here, because that's how long the body animation is anyway. So now that we have this animation playing on the control rig, and this position here is just to do with the socket. Actually, let's fix the socket up a little bit here. So we can go to the SK mannequin skeleton right here, and we can change the preview animation to the reload rifle iron sights, and we can pause it and take it back to the first frame, and you'll see that disparity there with the front left hand. So with hand R socket selected, we can rotate this into the right position there, and that will do. That will do for now. So if we go back here, the socket has changed. Nice. So we're really just changing the keyframes of the left hand there to grab that mag and make it a little bit more accurate. So the reason we deleted the control rig body from here before adding the animation is so that now we can right click on the root and we can bake to control rig and choose the CR mannequin body, and we can just leave that as default and hit create. And now it has baked that animation onto the control rig, and we can now, you can see it's added the control rig back in, and it has all these keyframes. It's basically just added a keyframe at every moment for every single component to bake that onto the control rig. So now we can go in and we can edit this. Let's make sure that our automatic keyframing is selected, and we're first just going to look at the initial position of the hand here, where it goes onto the magazine. And let's see if we can get hand IK set up here. So global control, check these. Yep, we can use hand IK here. So we can go from here. You can see it's already way off. Oh, it hasn't done it with everything. So I wonder if we can just hit Control A. No. I'm trying to set up the hand IK for the whole animation. So I'm wondering if switching it to hand IK from FK for all keyframes is going to do it. So switch this on. Ah, I see. It's changed the animation here. This is not ideal. If I go undo until it undoes everything that I messed up there. What we might actually do is just switch on the IK for the left hand. So if we just go here and L FK IK switch, and we switch on the IK for the left hand, it won't mess up the animation because the right hand, and we don't have to mess with that anyway. So this is how we'll do it. We'll switch on the IK for the left hand, and then when it grabs the mag here, we can select that IK, put it onto the mag. Yep, put it about here. And I'm not going to mess with the fingers or anything like that. I'm just trying to clean up this animation a little bit. We're still going to need to delete some frames here. So we might want to just go from there to there. So I'm just going to make this scale a lot closer, and let's have a look at the frame that we set is there. The initial frame is there. where was it? Frame 14. And let's see what happens if we just delete those. Yeah, see, that's a lot cleaner. So what we can do is just keyframe where we want to keyframe, and we'll delete all of the other ones in between. So this, obviously the gun is rotating here and then it's starting to pull out. So at frame 29 here, I might, I'm going to delete everything before there. And then this frame here, we obviously need this grabbing on here. And obviously with the way this is set up, you know, my hand can only reach so far. There's not much I can really do about that without changing the whole animation. So I'm just going to focus on, well, grabbing, and then it's starting to pull. And I might make another keyframe about here. So I'll delete all of these. And once again, get this hand on the mag. And the mag is not, the hand is not really reaching the mag at this point, but that's okay. Like I said, we're not going to go into massive detail here. We're just looking into how you can actually make changes to an existing animation to make it a bit cleaner. So here it kind of goes on a bit of an arc, and if we want it to follow the mag, it's going to be quite a lot of keyframing. We can actually just delete a lot of these and then do it all ourselves. You can see it's way off here, way off. So I'm actually just going to delete a lot of those and then start keyframing it myself here. So whoops. Sorry, I'm fighting with the viewport a little bit here. And then once you've got a couple of, you know, keyframes, you can take a look at the animation, and anywhere where it starts to slide out of play, so you think it needs to be a little bit more fine-tuned, you can do that. And let's just, for the sake of this tutorial, let's have her fully reach back like this, and can't, there we go, and even bring the elbow forward a little bit like so. That's going to make problems with the elbow. Let's find the arm. So it's that one there. Yep. And I might just delete, say, 3 frames on either side of the elbow here, and actually even more, just delete quite a few frames around that elbow movement, and then it will kind of be a little bit more smoother than just snapping between those keyframes. And we're going to go back to the hand and get it onto that magazine. Whoops. What's the hand doing now? Can't really see it. What has happened to the hand? The fingers have gone a bit screwy there. Yeah, I've accidentally selected several controls there. Whoops. And again, we're getting into the territory here of the arm being a little bit too extended, it being tricky to reach this animation. But as long as you see kind of the point that I'm trying to make here with altering these animations, that's what we're going for. So I might have to just delete pretty much all of these keyframes until the hand is back on the weapon. So I'll delete most of those. And then I'm just looking, boom, boom, boom. I can't really reach that anymore. It looks a lot better than it did. Even though, you know, when we look in this really super fine detail at every single frame, you can see a lot of moments where, you know, it's not great. The hand is at least following that mag, which is, you know, it's a lot better than it was. If you're doing a third-person shooter, you wouldn't have to do too much more work after this to make this animation look passable. But now that that is more or less where we want it, we can right click here and we can bake animation sequence, and let's just call this a reload sequence. Whoops. Reloads underscore sequence, hit OK, export the animation, and then we obviously need this to be a montage. So we can find our, where did we save that? Reload sequence. Where did we save that? We can press Control B. Ah, I accidentally saved it in the mannequin rigs folder. I'm just going to move that to the content folder, move here. And the reload sequence here, we can take a look at that. That's our new sequence. Very nice. Let's create an animation montage, call it reload sequence, change the blend in and out times. And go to our third person characters event graph and change this to our reload sequence montage. Just browse to that one, make sure that's the right one. Very good. Compile and save, and I might save all just to try and avoid the engine crashing. And now, if we hit play, go to full screen so we can see it more clearly, and we press R. You'll see one thing here, it's with the feet. She looks a bit odd. It's because basically creating your own animations breaks the foot IK in the third person character. So if I just browse to the animation blueprint and open up ABP Mani, delete this control rig node here, which is for the feet IK, that will fix that weird thing with the feet. And the feet are moving because we don't have that idle animation from the Anim starter pack. But you can see there, that is a lot better than it was. The hand is actually following the clip somewhat. Nice. Alrighty guys, as per usual, if this video has been of any use or value to you whatsoever, please hit like and subscribe. And if you're so inclined, please do consider making a small donation to the channel via my Patreon. Link is in the description, or via the YouTube super thanks function. You can find a thanks button just below the video. You can also donate money that way. Guys, at this stage, being a Patreon member does not give you any added benefits. It is just a way of your making donations to the channel without so much of that donation going to YouTube, because YouTube takes 50%. So more of your donation goes towards helping to keep me going and making more tutorials for you guys. But for the record, I am working on potentially setting up a Discord server. So membership of my Patreon will give you access to the Discord server, and hopefully we will have that set up in the next month or so. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.